Okay, good morning, everyone. Uh, Welcome back to the Adda, Giri's Adda, after a very long time. I think it's been several months since we had a conversation at the Adda, and I'm happy to be back here. And during that time, a lot of friends and colleagues who are familiar with this little space have encouraged me, they've prodded me, they've provoked me to get back, saying that why did you create this platform in the first place if you're not doing anything about it? So I'm really happy for all that pushing. We have a very special guest today, and I'm going to get to him in a short while. But before that, for those of you who are on this platform, on this YouTube channel for the first time, I would like to say that Giri's Adda is all about books, songs, and conversations. So these are the three things that I keep doing time to time, and all in the hope that these three little actions will contribute to a better world. So do explore, the channel when you have the time and leave your comments. Okay, so without any further ado, let me get to the topic for today's conversation. And how do I describe Arvind Gupta? I think I'm at a loss, and as I start off, I'm a little nervous as well. The uh, uh, the fact remains that Arvind Gupta ji has inspired generations of people working in education, whether they are students, educators, academicians, and so on. So, if there's any one person who has uh, literally transformed the way science education is done in schools, particularly government schools across the country, and through that work, given us a lot of hope that many things can happen. I think it's Arvindji. But that's not the only thing that he's done. There are many other aspects of his uh, work over the last 4.5 to 5 decades that are equally inspiring. And we will get Arvindji to talk about all of these in the next 1 hour or so. So a very, very warm welcome, Arvindji, and thank you for agreeing to be part of this session today. We are looking forward to your sharing. And at the same time, we are going to also have two or three toy breaks in between, because what's a
Sure.
session with Arvind Gupta without having a look at some of the toys that he has developed? So that's the way the session is planned. So I think it's in the fitness of things for me, Arvindji, to start by asking you, uh, how did it all begin? Because I'm aware that you're an engineer by background, and you trained at the IIT Kanpur way back in the early 70s. Uh, how is it that you know being an engineer, uh, you moved on to something like this? What is that story?
I think the initial impetus came from IIT Kanpur itself. I was a student there from 1970 to 1975, and we had two big schools there. One was the Kendriya Vidyalaya, the central school, and the other was a campus school,
Hmm.
where the children of the faculty went into. But there was no school over there for the children of the Malis, of the mess servants, of
Right.
the chaprasis, of the guards. So some of our very enlightened faculty members started something called as the opportunity school. Hmm?
Okay.
So which was held in a kind of a type 2 quarter apartment. And some of our students were part of it.
Okay.
Uh, so we used to bunk a day in a week and go and teach those children. So
Okay.
this was my first engagement with teaching children. And I stayed in Hall 5, which was just adjacent to the Nankari village. And what I remember is that uh, in about a dozen young boys who were doing their high school, their difficulties in maths, in English, in science, they would come to my room in the evening. I would
Okay.
help them out, and they cleared their high school. So
So
this
which
was
year was this? 1971,
this
thereabout?
is this is 73, 74, 75. But
Okay.
much before that, in 1972, and I think that's the hallmark of a great institute,
Right.
that that without telling you, the institute just uh, gives you something which is not part of the curriculum, but something much more serious. So
Mm-hmm.
in 1972, I was a second year student, and I saw a little poster saying that Anil Sadgopal is going to talk about his experiences.
Okay.
And I was just curious about it, and I, as a backbencher listener,
So you hadn't
and
heard of Anil Sadgopal then?
no, not at all.
Okay.
I heard him for the first time, and unlike many people who say that they have covered so much of coverage, so many schools covered, so many educated, like he talked, he said that things are very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
We've been trying to work with the village kids for the last several years, and it's very difficult going because when you're in a city, you have this very romantic image of a village. Hmm.
Yeah.
गांव का पनघट है, सब
Yes.
कुछ है. There are these fields of mustard with yellow flowers. But once you
Absolutely.
go to a village, you encounter caste, class, and gender.
Right.
And
Right.
the people are there are not interested in getting the poor kids educated. So it's very
Yeah.
difficult. So
Right.
that is what what struck me was that here's a person with such deep commitment, such an
Right.
illustrious background, a
Right.
PhD from Caltech, and who's working, and still he's saying he's not able to make any inroads. So
Right.
that was a question which kept plaguing me for several years. The
Mm-hmm.
seed took in there,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then in 1975, I graduated, did a VTech, and it came down to Pune to work with telco. Now
So can
called
I can
Tata.
I can I just
Yeah,
interject here? So
yeah,
this opportunity school that you talked about in IIT that was set up for the workers of IIT Kanpur,
yes,
and you were interacting with their children whenever you had the time.
yes.
Uh, but your can it be said that your later ideas in science teaching and so on had its roots in that experience, or was it that you were just doing it casually and you didn't kind of foresee what would happen from that point?
No, I had not foreseen anything like that.
Okay.
I
Okay.
was just helping these kids to crack their exam and pass the exams. But
Right.
Hoshangabad science posed a particular challenge, that how
Right.
do you teach a village kids science where there
Right.
are no labs? And at that time, there were two people, from the Doom school. One
Okay.
was Mr. B.G. Pitre, and the other
Okay.
was Chandrakant Dikshit. Now, Doon
Okay.
school being a very elitist school and a progressive school, in the late 60s, they had sent
Hmm.
two teachers to the Nuffield Foundation in England
Right.
to learn about their activity. So
Right.
they are the people who had come to the Hoshangabad Science because they had experience in activity-based learning. So,
Hmm.
but all their materials, though we gel with the Nuffield philosophy that children
Yeah.
should learn by experience, by doing
Right.
things, but the materials were all alien. The materials had to be
Right.
reinvented. So
And
one was when
probably
I
very cost intensive also.
Yes, they should be. If a program has to take off, it should use commonly available materials and which are cost effective, which people are familiar with in there. You can't
Right.
use
Right.
out of the world materials. So
Right.
so once in 1978, I took a year off from my job
Okay.
in Tata Motors and took a
Yeah.
1 year's leave. And
Yeah.
the Tata Trust was instrumental in getting that leave because at that time, Kishore Bharti, which ran the Hoshangabad Science Program, was funded by the Tata Trust.
Okay.
So they helped me get 1 year's study leave, and I went to Hoshangabad.
So Kishore
Uh,
Bharti was that NGO that ran HSTP.
yes, Kishore
Yeah.
Bharti and Friends Rural Center.
Friends Rural
These are
Center.
two
Yeah.
NGOs. They
Right.
started the Hoshangabad in
In fact,
16
also
schools.
Chandra Kumar at some point has described, I think, Kishore Bharti as the mother of educational NGOs post independence. I mean,
I think after independence, the Hoshangabad Science was the most significant intervention uh, by civil society into education. So they
right.
started with 16 schools, and one must mention the very, very progressive bureaucrat, Dr. B.D. Sharma. He was
Right.
the Secretary Education of Madhya Pradesh, and
Mm-hmm.
so he gave them permission to work in 16 schools. Oh, when the entire hierarchy of education was against, they said these people are not even B.Eds or M.Eds, and how can you entrust the future of education in these hands? He made a prophetic statement. He said, मध्य प्रदेश में शिक्षा का स्तर इतना गिरा हुआ है कि इससे ज्यादा और नहीं गिर सकता. It is so low that they can't do any harm to it.
Right.
And so when I went over
And
there,
that was way back in the 70s. Yeah.
yes, way back in the 70s. So I said that, Kanpur is very far off, Pune is very far off. And there was a Friday bazaar. I said, I must go there. And where people sell all their, that was the mall of today, where people spread all their wares on the roadside, small
Right.
trinkets, small mirrors, small dibbies. And so I said that I'll buy one specimen of each. And
Okay.
let us see what are the possibilities of doing science with these. And
Yeah.
I bought small mirrors. You could find bangles. You could find many things over there. And
Okay.
when I was kind of I was getting my bicycle repaired,
Right.
I saw the cycle valve tube hanging.
Okay. I think you immortalized this tube.
So it appeared to me a very potential material. I could not
Okay.
foresee any use. 10 paisa per a fit. This is
Right.
1978. So I
Right.
bought 10 feet of it. And then,
Okay, like I have a question here. This valve
yes.
tube, was it just bought out of instinct, or I mean, you said let me buy it and see what happens.
No, I'm fascinated with materials. I'm always, whenever I go for a walk, I take a old plastic bag with me, picking up
Okay.
old plastic bottles, plastic
Okay.
cups. The road is full of interesting throwaways,
Right.
which this consumerist society just chucks off. And
Absolutely.
so I'm always doing that. And
Right. Okay.
so I thought it was a very potential material. I could not foresee any use for it. But in the Kishore Bharati library, I read a very beautiful book. It was
Okay.
by a person called as Keith Warren. He
Keith
was a
Warren.
British
Yeah.
Keith Warren. Keith
Yeah.
Warren had come as a UNICEF consultant to India in the
Right.
70s.
Right.
And he wrote this fascinating book that if you take a matchbox, ordinary matchbox,
Hmm.
and at that time, in the 70s, matchbox was not made of cardboard. They made of
Hmm.
wood with the blue paper. And
Hmm.
and he said, if you take out the internal drawer of the matchbox, a drawer like this,
If you
and
can, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yes,
Right.
the
Hmm.
drawer, and you
Hmm.
coat it with oil, this becomes waterproof. If you fill
Ah.
this drawer with water, it holds 20 milliliters of water.
Okay. So
That
that's like a measure.
fascinated,
Wow.
yes, that fascinated me no end. I thought that
Right.
matchboxes are mass produced in a factory, so they
Yeah.
conform to certain standard dimensions. So my
Yes.
first month in Kishore Bharati was just trying to discover the properties of a matchbox. If you
Wow.
take if you take ordinary matchstick, it's 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters. If you take a full matchbox, standard matchbox, and you weigh it, it's about 10 grams. There are 50 matchsticks in a matchbox. 50 matchsticks are very close to 5 grams. 10 matchsticks weigh 1 gram. And one unburnt matchstick is as close to zero point 0.1 gram as you can get in a village.
So you have a
So,
set of weights as such. Yeah.
yes. So because I was messing around with matchsticks, matchsticks were there everywhere. And then just suddenly I saw that, oh, if you can take this valve tube was lying on the table, and that you could put a matchstick goes
Wow.
very
And
snugly into a matchstick.
it fit
And you make
exactly.
you
Wow.
make a joint of two. So the first month, I made the matchstick
Amazing. Amazing.
models.
So we have seen your books on
Yes,
what you can do with the simple matchstick.
yes,
Absolutely. And in fact, I would say it's a bit of a transformative movement, because I mean this is what one would expect a creative teacher to do, isn't it? Of course, it's easier said than done, but then that's the ultimate aim, actually.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mm.
So the first month I did and that made me very happy. For the
Mm-hmm.
first time, I thought that I could use my engineering. Even at that time, I said that someday many children are going to use this. So my
Mm-hmm.
first book was Matchstick Models and Other Science Experiments, which got into 12 Indian language. It got translated into Chinese 5 years back, but did that very well. But that gave me the first taste that, this is what I'm good at, and I can contribute a small bit in this direction. So
Wonderful. Okay.
I think
So
unless
how did HSTP receive this?
No, they were very happy with that. As a matter of
Okay.
fact, the first Bal Vaigyanik book, the
Hmm.
first chapter has the mastic mechano in it.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
So
Right.
they took it very nicely. It was,
Hmm.
and but that for me it was a starting point that one could. No one has done this, and we could do.
Hmm. Hmm.
And after that, I spent 6 months in the Hoshangabad Science, and then I went down to Trivandrum to work for 4 months with Laurie Baker. Laurie
Hmm.
Baker was as a student, he was
Hmm.
my college day icon. I thought
Okay.
that the only architect who had touched the lives of the poor was Laurie
Right.
Baker. I must just go and work with him.
Right.
And so I'd done the Master Meccano. I took a box of Master Meccanos to Laurie Baker. He had one look at them,
Okay.
and well, I was in, and I spent 4 months with him, and he was another great mentor for me.
Right.
A fantastic man who did serious work all the time, but cracked jokes, made you
Yeah.
laugh. That's one quality. We take ourselves very seriously.
Yes.
Right?
True. True. True.
He would be
Yeah.
doing dead serious work, but still make you laugh all the time. That's something
Okay.
which I learned from him.
Okay. Right. So I think this is so from this starting point. I mean, how did you move forward to establish this huge body of work around science education? I mean,
So,
you began from that very rural and remote
yes.
setting in HSTP, and
Yes.
how did things then pan out one after the other? If you can just
No,
throw some
what,
light
what
on.
I think the major breakthrough. Well, I was after I left. Then I came back to Telco Pune, my study
Hmm.
leave, but I didn't last there for
Hmm.
another year, and then I
Hmm.
quit my job. And
Hmm.
then I think I just pursued. I was invited to many schools, been to 3,000 schools, doing workshops with teachers, with children,
So
and
this
at
was
the same
across the country.
across the country, and documenting all of them. I, I
Hmm.
was in a I was in a long fellowship with Kapat, almost 12
Okay.
years,
Okay.
to write a book, and to do workshops with big NGOs like
Okay.
Telonia, like many other big NGOs who ran, like Telonia ran 50 night schools for them. So I did
Right.
workshops
Right.
for their teachers. So many
Right.
such NGOs. This was the agenda of Kapat. So I
Right.
was able to, uh, I just earned a survival wage, but was able to write books. And these books got a very good response
Right.
from
Right.
people, and which kept me motivated. And I was liking this work. I didn't want a factory job or an office job, because every day, some school I'd be with a new set of children. I could see a gleam in their eye. I could see happiness on their
Right.
faces. I think
Right.
more than anything else, the children's faces, their happiness, that motivated me to keep doing this. I
Right.
think the major breakthrough came in 2003. That's when
Okay.
we moved back from Delhi to Pune.
Okay.
And as soon as I came to Pune, I was invited by Professor Jayan Narlikar.
Okay. The
He
the
is India,
cosmologist. Yeah.
yes, he's India's most decorated astrophysicist, Padma Vibhushan, and he said that, look, he was also the founder of IUCA, Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics in Pune.
Right.
Uh, he, like his father, also went to Cambridge, worked with uh, a great cosmologist. And he said, look, we are setting up a children's science center, and we've heard about you. Why don't you come
Right.
and work? Now, my first thought was that I'd never worked in an office, much less a government office. So I was
Yeah.
very reluctant. But he said, look, the center is still being constructed, and you can give it a shape. And if you
Right.
don't like it, you can leave it. And so that gave me more confidence. But I think the 11 years I spent in Ayuka
Right.
but for me, it was transformative.
So it helped you
And
to take your work onto another level altogether,
it
isn't it?
absolutely,
Yeah.
because Ayuka was a high-tech facility.
Yeah.
Every room in 2003 had a broadband. I never heard about
Wow.
broadband.
Wow.
And so for the first 6 months, I
Hmm.
went crazy. I became like a geek. I was looking at books like Toto Chan, which I'd helped publish. I was looking
Right.
at so many. I'd done 100 books for the Bharat Gyan Vigyan Samiti.
Right.
A set of
Right.
called as the Bal Vachan series, which had done 2 million copies. So
Right.
I thought this is such a powerful medium. The internet was just coming in
Right. Right.
to put all your books. I am quite technologically challenged, but every
Right.
stage of my life, I have met much people who are much more competent than I am. So it was Professor Surendran. He did a PhD in physics from IIT Mumbai.
Okay.
A
Okay.
very amazing man. He used to wear a kurta, pajama, a pair of slippers. And he
Okay.
said, I've heard about you. I said, sir, I want to set up a website I know nothing about. He said,
Right.
oh,
So
this is very easy.
Arvind, we'll come to this part of your work in a short
Yeah,
while.
yeah,
I have two questions to ask at this
sure.
point. But before that, can we have a toy break? Can we get?
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
you have of course shown the matchstick mechano, but then show something else that will get us all excited.
No, this is just with the Matchbox. We did many, many things with the Matchbox. And
Right.
no, this is something which was done by the Vikram Sarabhai Community Science Center.
Okay.
This was set up in 1962, inaugurated by Sir C.V. Raman. Hmm? And
Right.
it was a great vision of Vikram Sarabhai to set it up. Now, they did this experiment. They gave all the children one empty matchbox, right?
Okay.
And the same brand, so they exactly the same size, mass produced.
Right.
And there was a challenge thrown in that you have a week's time, you go back home, and you've got to fill in one specimen. You've got to pack the matchbox with different things, but one
Okay.
specimen of each. Hmm?
Okay.
And the child who comes back after a week with the maximum number of things in the matchbox will get a
Okay.
big prize.
Okay.
No, the
Okay.
children
Interesting.
went back home and they started looking for small things at home. Someone put a rubber in a sharpener, and they said nothing, not good enough. Someone saw his mother cooking poha, took a
Right.
mustard seed, took a
Right.
cumin seed, a
Yeah.
lal mirch ka beej dal diya, one rice grain, one strand of hair, one little
Yeah.
piece of thread. Now kids for a week, they were looking into the micro around them.
Right. Right. Right.
That's what
Right.
observation. There is a difference between
Absolutely.
seeing and observing. And
Absolutely.
when the kids came to the science center, everyone was asked to shake their matchboxes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the matchboxes which made any sound, they were out,
Oh, okay.
obviously,
Okay.
because there were gaps. Therefore, they could make sound.
Right.
And one chap was able to pack in more than 150 things in a matchbox.
Wow.
No,
Okay.
this was a great experiment. At zero cost. What is science about? Science is not about mugging up formulas and spitting them out in the exams. Is to
Right.
look at critically the reality around you,
Right.
love where you live, and Buddha gave a great definition of science
Uh-huh.
2,500 years back. No, this child was able to look at small things.
I'm
And
curious to know what was it that this child had put into that matchbox.
no, small things, all in the house.
Okay.
One rice grain, one
Okay.
mustard seed. If you look
Okay.
at the condiments, the spices, very
Right.
small things. So now he
Right.
was looking for pulses. एक मूंग की दाल का दाना डाल दिया,
Right.
एक मसूर डाल दिया. ऐसे
Right.
करके उसने 150 चीजें एक माचिस में भरी. And this was
Amazing.
all about close packaging, about atomic structures, so many things, and which is zero low cost.
Hmm.
We actually made a film on this. How many things in a matchbox? We made a film
Oh,
on this.
okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
this is
And
very,
this
very
film
exciting.
is on your website, right?
Yes, it's on our
Okay.
website.
So
You'll
just for
find.
the sake of, for the benefit of viewers, I in fact, I don't even have to tell them. Please get on to www.arvindguptatoys.com for a treasure trove, and I think that is a website which is a national treasure. It's an institution by itself, and I would encourage friends and colleagues to check this out. In fact, Arvindji, I must have begun. In fact, I should have begun this episode by saying that there are so many people who have sent in their wishes from different parts of the country, and uh, very interestingly, some of those wishes have come in from pretty young people who are setting out on their educational journey, but who recall their interactions with your website and all the learning that they've got from that particular website. Uh, so that's just a piece of information. Arvindji, I have a question.
Yes.
What is it about engineers who stray into education, and what is it about non-educational people who have made such a big impact in education. I mean, I take your example all the time, but then there is Vinod Raina, who was a physicist, and Anil Sadgopal, who was, I think, a chemistry, a scientist who investigated chemistry, and likewise, I mean, there are so many examples. How do you see this decades later when you reflect back on all
No,
that? What is it that drew all these people to HSTP?
no, I think, if you look at the history of education, if you look at Maria Montessori herself, right?
Hmm.
Maria Montessori was not a trained teacher. She was Italy's first medical doctor, right?
Okay.
And
Hmm.
so it's always people, not people with B.Eds or M.Eds who have made contributions to education, but
Mm.
people who have come from a different background altogether and who have shown a new light on education.
Hmm.
This has always been the case. So if you are many people think that if you're a B.Ed or a M.Ed, you would have gone through the same old grind. It's very unlikely that you're going to contribute something original to education.
Right.
So
Right.
there is a whole history of this that
No, but are you
people.
therefore saying, and let me just kind of extend this conversation a little, are you therefore saying that all the education preparation courses, B.Eds, M.Eds, and so on, either they should be scrapped or they should be completely overhauled? What are you saying?
And I think they should be completely overhauled. Completely overhauled. Finland did this several years back, and today they have one of the finest education systems. They shut all their private teacher training colleges. They said, "Oh,
Okay.
these are money making enterprises. They don't imbue." And the task was given to four central universities. And
Right.
today, like in India, after the 12th, the brightest want to crack NEET or JEE. In
Mm.
Finland, the brightest children after their 12th want to become an elementary school teacher because the
Wow.
toughest
Wow.
exam in the
Toughest
world.
exam. Yes.
Yes, yes. If you crack it, your marriage prospects go sky high. You get a good, you get a good job. See, everyone is wanting to become an elementary, and it's a very rigorous training. You do a
Right.
PhD and then you become a school teacher, right? That's the
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I must tell you that in these 70s, there was a political ferment when I was doing my college.
Yeah.
The kind of the slogan was "Go to the people, live with
Right.
them, love them, start from what they know, build on what they have." This was a
Yeah.
political, and at that time, many people who said
Mm.
that we are not going to make bombs, we are not going to make bullets, right?
Mm.
Irrespective of nationalism, right? We are not going to kill people, whether of
Mm.
any race or any kind.
Mm.
Pacifists, right? That we must find some meaningful role for ourselves in society so that we don't
Mm.
harm society. We can do a little bit of good. I think that inspired a lot of people. There was
Mm.
this iconic, I'd seen an Oxfam poster in
Okay.
1980. Somewhere there are engineers helping others fly faster than sound. Where are
Yeah.
the engineers helping those who must live on the ground? It showed the Concorde plane, the supersonic plane,
Right. Right.
flying high in the sky, and there were
Yeah.
these some African women holding pitchers and
Yeah.
going to fetch water for 4 kilometers. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of the 70s were full of this.
Right.
The
Right.
people were trying to find a meaningful role for themselves, and I think at every stage in society, there are people who are thinking
Right.
people who want to contribute something meaningful. This
Right.
website, I said, very technically challenged with just
Okay.
a small digital camera.
Right.
I had done 128 films with the CIET,
Okay. Okay.
Central Institute for Education,
Right.
NCRT's
NCRT.
television wing, and
Right.
which came out as Tarang program on Doordarshan, which had become very
Right.
popular. But their
Right.
format was very rigid. Every small toy was 20 minutes. We said,
Okay.
no, children don't have that much time today. So we set out to making short films, 2 minute films. They should be short, crisp, captivating.
Mm-hmm.
No faces, no faces. We let it, no faces. There
Mm.
should be materials, step one, step two, step three. Once the toy is ready, a new child is playing with the toy.
Right.
So, so they are our heroes and heroines. And we
Right.
got these films dubbed into many, many languages. The result is we have 8,700 videos on YouTube in
Wow.
15 Indian
Wow.
languages. We
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
350 videos in Spanish. We had
Okay.
a we had a postdoc student from the Dominican Republic, Dr. Brizio Canaflaca, and
Okay.
her mother tongue was Spanish, and
Right.
she came to our center and she saw all these small toys, and she says, "Oh, this is I come from such a poor country. This is what my children need."
Right.
And she dubbed 350 videos into Spanish. Now, Spanish is spoken in 26 countries, and
Hmm.
literally crores of children in these countries have seen our
Hmm.
videos. So
So
this was
that
a
brings me, I mean, there's so many thoughts,
hmm,
questions in my mind, but I want to begin by saying that it is such a sad statement that, we established institutions, teacher preparation institutions such as the diets after the 1986 policy. But look at where the diets are today. I mean, when I hear you narrating the Finland experience and the kind of prominence and the importance that they gave for government institutions and for institution building, I think somewhere as a nation, I feel that we've really faltered
failed.
when it came to building institutions, because the diets are dead, almost dead. In fact,
Yes.
in many states now they've even stopped the D.Ed courses because there are so many people who have done these courses who don't have jobs. And I really don't know. I think that's one lesson that we still haven't learned, perhaps, in terms of how do we change the education sector in our country. Yeah.
But
uh,
the other thing which 40 years back when I looked at, one could find made easies or guides to
yeah,
crack a B.Ed, but
yeah,
very few good books on education. There was a
yeah,
total
yeah,
lack of.
yeah,
So we started with, Diva Swapna, Toto
yeah,
Chan. We
yeah.
pushed it through the National Book Trust. Today,
Right.
Toto Chan is in the 28th edition in Marathi, because
Amazing,
30,
amazing.
30
In
years
Marathi.
back
Yeah.
in
Okay.
Marathi,
Yeah.
28th edition in Marathi.
Yeah.
Books like Teacher by Sylvia Ashton Warner, right?
Yeah.
Summerhill by A.S. Neil. So some of the best books in the world, which is the
In
NCRT
fact,
should be looking at it.
I would urge colleagues and friends to take note of all these books that Arvindji is mentioning. I think for anybody working in education, it's like a must read. I mean, someone who has not read Divaswapna or Toto Chan, I think high time that you know, kind of encourage yourself and get there as soon as possible. Arvindji, that brings me to the next big, aspect of your work, uh, which is, and again, but before I get there, this whole body of work around science education that you've done, how how do you see this vis-a-vis the so-called modernization efforts of the government now? uh, in the 70s, you didn't have the challenge or probably the opportunities that digital technology provided. uh, Today, children are exposed to all forms of digital technology, and so are teachers, right? uh, there are these big companies that are trying to sell their products, whether it is interactive flat panels or
Yes.
tablets or personalized and adaptive learning solutions and so on and so forth. How do you see all of this, and do you think that it should be moderated? I mean, how does even, is there a limit to uh, looking at the way digital technology in education should be used? And particularly, again, I'm trying to relate this to the stupendous amount of work that you've done in science education at this point of time.
So we had decided right in the beginning that whatever we do would be in the free public domain. All our videos are in the Creative Commons. Anyone can dub them without our permission,
Yeah.
and use them for free public screenings. No
Right.
issues about that. You see, what is happening with the edtech companies is that China has put a big ban on their big edtech companies, right? Because they are competing with. Are they making our children cleverer? If you look, I just looked the other day. There's 24th suicide in Kota alone in this
Quota.
year.
Yes.
Kota.
Absolutely. Yes.
Over 100 suicides in Kota alone. Is this
Yeah.
humanizing education? Is this the kind of future we want for our children?
Right.
Even if they don't have a label of an IIT, or an AIMS, they can
Yeah,
be very good, nice human beings, right?
that's true.
We,
Yeah.
we forget that. But I think it's a lot of tremendous amount of parental pressure which is pushing children into this. The task of parenting is to find what the child is interested in,
Mm-hmm.
the core thing, and then support it.
Mm-hmm.
And people who have themselves not made to the IITs, they are pushing their kids into this very, very
Yeah, yeah,
bad
that's
game.
true. It's a mad, mad aspiration,
It's
actually.
a mad aspiration. It
Yeah.
doesn't make them, all their life they would feel frustrated. Their own creative self would be totally crushed. They would be running after, this job, this MNC job, that job abroad, right? Rather than involving themselves into nation building or doing something good for their people.
True,
So we,
true,
we
true.
said we said that we would keep this free, absolutely free. And despite,
Right.
I also was very clear, I was working in a government institution, that it should be independent. Hence,
Yeah.
ArvindGuptaToys.com. I could have put
Right.
it on the Ayuka platform, but it would
Correct.
not be there today. So it's
Right.
there today. With about, we have 100 million viewers of our videos, 10 crore
Amazing.
children.
Amazing. Amazing.
This
Yeah.
coming from a government organization with a 400 square feet room. And the
Yeah.
other was, there are only two things, books and toys on my website. I
Right.
said that in a country, such a huge country, 140 crore people, there are very few public libraries.
Right.
Digital
Right.
technology enables us to uh, make our children access our heritage, our great
Yeah.
books. So
Yeah.
we have been scanning. Archive.org is the Mahasagar of books. 4
Right.
crore books you can download from there. I have a
Right.
page there, and I've been scanning old books, books in
Hmm.
Hindi, books in Marathi, books in Urdu. In the
Hmm.
last 2 months, I put 500 books in Urdu on
Amazing.
the
Wow.
archive page.
Right.
Uh, and we've had almost
So
2
when,
crore.
if I can kind of
Yeah,
come in here, so I think just for the sake of our friends who have tuned in, uh, what fascinates me about Arvindji's work is this second part, which is also very close to my heart, and I believe it very strongly. And that is, how does one create, much as how Arvindji tried to create learning opportunities for children in the remotest parts of this country using the material that was available in their communities and trying to make science more accessible. I think a similar parallel has been created by him over the last several decades in making knowledge resources accessible. And if you go on to his website, you will see what I'm saying. What was the spark? I mean, Arvindji, if you can just, you started by talking about public libraries and so on, but then we would like to know a little more about that. What is it that set you off on that journey of creating? For example, I remember in the early 90s when I was in the Valley School in Bangalore, and Dr. Gananath, who was my colleague, and he later on left the school and
mashallah.
started work in the maths education space. And he used to mention about you at that time. I remember having conversations with him, and one of the things that struck me about those conversations was his admiration for the fact that you were furiously, and I would say almost desperately, trying to translate great books available into dime a dozen languages, at least beginning with Hindi, Marathi, and so on and so forth, so that you could make this great human resource available for millions of people across the country. What started you off on that journey?
Like it was when I was in Delhi. I was in Delhi from 99 to 2002. And
Hmm.
for 14 years, I was on the advisory board of the National Book Trust.
Hmm.
Arvind Kumar was appointed as the first non-government director of the National Book Trust by Rajiv
Right.
Gandhi.
Right.
And he came from the world of books. His father had set up Rajkamal and some of the best publishing houses in Hindi. So
Hmm.
he loved books. And he very soon realized that one should get good people on board. So
Hmm.
so for 11 years, I had a very close ringside view of the National Book Trust. And I
Okay.
saw the poverty of material in Hindi. Now, Hindi is the fourth largest spoken language in the world, right?
Right.
But very, very few good books in Hindi. So this could put me on the path. The first book which I translated was Keith Warren's
समझ
Preparation
के
for
लिए तैयार
Understanding,
किया.
Samajh
Right.
Ke Liye Tayari, which
Yes.
was published by UNICEF,
Right.
1.5 lakh copies at that time, later
Yeah.
taken up by National Book Press, now
I
maybe
think
in
for
the
those
20th.
colleagues from UNICEF, please note, we used to do all those things earlier. Yeah.
So this is maybe the 20th edition. The
Yeah.
English, it is surprising. The English version is not available apart from my website. Huh?
Okay.
Yes, preparation. We got this. We were not able to get this into Marathi. So
Mm-hmm.
Anil Bodia, who was the education secretary, he helped us get Diva Swapna and Preparation for Understanding. He sent
Mm.
money when he was the education secretary.
Mm.
35,000 copies of Preparation for Understanding came out into Marathi.
Mm. Mm.
So, so this I have been translating, furiously translating. 1900 books into Hindi. A
Wow.
book, a
Yes.
book a day, a book a
Ooh.
day, a picture book a day, and put it on the archives for posterity, right?
Mm. Mm.
Not too many, despite such a large Hindi speaking population, not
Mm.
too many people still read these books. But
Mm.
this is not
Mm.
a reflection on these books, it's a
Mm.
reflection on these Bimaru states. These are
Mm.
the states like UP, like Bihar, like Madhya Pradesh, like
Right.
Rajasthan, with the lowest human development index.
Right.
There is
Right.
no culture of reading over there. But so
Absolutely.
they need more of them. I feel they need
Yes.
more of them. So which
Yes.
makes me translate more. So we have a
Right.
group of people who keep translating these books into various languages.
Right. Right. No, I think this is. But then a related question is, uh, I mean, somewhere we've always looked at knowledge generation and dissemination within society in a bit of a pyramidal model. That there are a few people at the top who generate, who write, and then it gets percolated down. I think in many ways what you're also saying is invert that pyramid, because there are people on the ground who are also generating experiences and knowledge. And
Absolutely.
would you want to say a little more about that? How does one contribute to this huge ocean of human knowledge, especially about how children learn about education, but then from a bottom up perspective?
No, but I think today new technologies can also democratize education and take books, make books accessible to one and all, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Today, anyone with a mobile can, if you've got a good idea, you can
Right.
shoot a small 2-minute clip video
Right.
and it can
Right.
go viral. We can make
Right.
it accessible to all. So,
Right.
so it is the education like CIET, for instance,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
television wing of the it has become superfluous now. No one sees their films now because
Right.
there's so much crisper, better videos coming in from the
True.
public at large. It
True.
shows the creativity in ordinary people. It is not just confined to the NCRT. Ordinary people are
No, but
very
then
creative.
it also brings me to this question as to why is it that it had to be an Arvind Gupta who did this and not the government of India or not the state governments? Because ultimately you see there is no dearth of resources within the government for such a task. Why is it that that has not happened? I mean, what is
No,
your
I
sense
think
of it?
no, I think that one is that government is gargantuan. The left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. There is very
Yeah.
little coordination within the
Yeah.
government. Like I think it should have been the responsibility of the NCRT to
Hmm.
bring out Diva Swapna, but they
Yeah.
were just sitting pretty on it. To get
Absolutely.
Totochan,
Yeah.
it is their task to scout for the best books on education. That's
Right.
what this body was supposed to do, but
Right.
they've totally failed in this mission. But
Right.
it's there where the civil society can step in and
Right.
put a lot of great stuff into the public domain, so it's accessible to
Absolutely.
all. You don't have to go to libraries. Sitting
Absolutely.
in the confines of your home, you can read the best books and
Yes.
self-study and self-educate yourself. That's a great
Yeah.
possibility.
I think that's the advantage and magic that digital technology also offers today. That you can access it freely. And okay,
Well,
we now have a toy break, I guess. So
I'm
Arvindji,
going to
for you.
show you, this is something which I did in 1990. Huh?
Okay.
This is a simple electric motor. As you can
Right.
see, it's
Right.
spinning. It's a very simple electric motor. Uh,
Yeah.
I will tell you the components. There's a battery, 1.5 volt
Right.
battery, two safety pins. This
Correct.
black thing is a old cycle tube. It's a broad rubber band, so
Right.
these two safety pins keep snug to the plus and the minus of the battery.
Right.
1.5 volts across this. There's a
Right.
small magnet over here, cost about a rupee. So if you have the battery, it costs 5 rupees to make this.
Wow. Wow.
Imagine that. Imagine that children read all these theories about magnetic
Motors and
induction,
this. Yeah. Yeah.
motors,
Yeah.
but no child ever makes a motor like this.
Yeah.
Now, this
Yeah.
is 33 years old. I think lakhs of children have made this motor. And
Absolutely.
this is such a wonderful. Now, if anything can go wrong in this, you can always repair it. It's a
Yeah.
great project. You keep at it and you will make it work. And if you make
Absolutely.
it work, you see. And I remember a teacher in a workshop.
Uh-huh.
He asked me a question uh, on a new battery, how long would this motor spin? And I
Okay.
said, look, I've never had the time to find this out.
You
So
you
he
you
says, so he sat in a corner and maybe for 6 hours he kept spinning his
Oh, it
motor
kept spinning.
the whole
Okay.
in his workshop until he drained out the battery. So
Okay.
it's a fascinating model, a very
But then,
low cost
this
model.
brings me to one disturbing uh, element, and I mean, a
Yes.
question, which is that even in 2023, we find, and I've written recently about it and I've shared it with a few friends, we find multitudes of teachers talking about things that are outside the syllabus. Uh, so I'm not, for example, this battery thing that you showed, I wouldn't be surprised if many teachers say, लेकिन ये तो हमारे किताब में नहीं दिया है, लेकिन ये हमारे syllabus के बाहर है, ये कैसे करेंगे? What is your suggestion for us to get out of this conundrum of out of syllabus or inside the syllabus and so on? Because the moment you talk about things like being creative and the moment you start thinking about thinking itself, that is out of the syllabus, isn't it? Because it has to break boundaries.
No, I think as far as the motor goes, now whether you are the Maharashtra State Board or the Haryana Board or the UP Board, if you're studying electricity, motor has to come in, right? It is a such a shame that engineering students, we were taught, well, I did electrical engineering from IIT Kanpur,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in 2000, they gave me the Distinguished Alumnus Award. And the electrical department wanted to honor me. So I
Yeah.
said, look, you taught me all these kinds of theories, but I discovered the beauty of the motor much later when I built one
Right.
myself.
Right.
Right. That's what I
Right.
told him. So I
Right.
think, but this is very much part of the curriculum. It's not out of the syllabus, electric motor.
No, but then if you look at the example of the matchbox that you gave, how many
Yes. Yeah.
things can see? Many
Yes.
conservative teachers would say that ये तो हमारे syllabus में नहीं, क्यों करना
Ah,
है? ये waste of time है. So the problem is, how does, so in that sense it comes back to an earlier question that I want, that I was beginning to ask, which is schools in 2023 and the schools of the 1970s,
right.
and in your travels across the country and of course across the world, uh, are they any different in India now, almost 5 decades later? What do you
No, I
think has
think,
changed? What do you think has remained the same?
well, a bit of conservation has, they're still conservative, but I think a lot has changed. Earlier, today the project method, today the learning by doing is a kind of a in thing. You can't scoff at it. Huh?
You can
It is
scoff,
no
yeah.
more. It is no more chalk and talk, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
children have to engage with projects, right?
Right,
But the very fact is, I think at the bottom,
right,
we don't have excited. We have never invested in good
right.
teacher training institutes. I think that is where we have lacked. And then
Yeah.
NCRT, हिंदी में कहते हैं कि बुझी मोमबत्ती दूसरी मोमबत्ती को नहीं जला सकती.
नहीं जला सकती है.
A extinguished candle cannot light another candle.
Another candle,
And,
yeah. Very well put.
and, and NCRTs are like extinguished candles, right?
Mhm.
You need bright sparks who can light up others. So we have failed to invest in good teacher training institutes. Either they're very commercial institutes or these edtech companies which are taking over. But within the government system, inspiring teacher training institutes. I can't
Mhm.
think of any. huh? So this is where we have faltered. But
So you're
technology,
saying going back to the basics, I mean,
yes,
teacher
yes,
preparation is the key
that's
again.
it is the key. It is the key because parents don't have the time, they don't have the ability. It's teachers again. And inspired teachers can do a lot. And there is no dearth, I can tell you.
Yeah,
I've been to thousands of schools and
right.
met extremely inspired teachers. There is no dearth in this country of inspired people.
Uh, I think the point that you're making, which is of course a very uh, optimistic view of things in terms of what you said uh, regard to learning by doing, experiential learning, all of this becoming more and more a common lingo now in the education
Yes.
system. How do you see all of this interfacing uh, with the large scale introduction of digital technologies in the classroom? What's your view of this?
I think just by seeing a good video is not good enough, right?
Right.
Children need to engage with physical activities. Seeing a
Okay.
picture of a banana is not like touching a banana, feeling a
Correct.
banana. You
Correct.
see more pictures of bananas and all these things than actual, you know, I
Right.
think one of the recent researches at
Yeah.
Harvard, which just
Yeah.
shows that children are looking at more pictures, more videos, and
Yeah.
handling fewer things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Children still need to handle. Our brains are wired like this. The
Right.
old wooden cube or a
Yeah.
plastic cube.
Yeah.
It's no sub. There is no substitute to
No
these videos. Are
substitute.
not no
Absolutely.
substitute for these.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is what the basic is, that we need to very low cost things. Like for
Right.
instance, I'll give you an example. You take a coconut.
Yeah.
What we did was when you break a coconut, I used
Yeah.
to the shell, the outer wooden shell, hard shell,
Yeah. Yeah.
not small pieces, five five or six big pieces. I would
Yeah.
take a milk bag, wash it, and keep it. When my daughter was young, I would say, "Look, take these pieces and make a." Now it's a three-dimensional jigsaw, right?
Wow. Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
costs no money. It is there in every house. So we
Yeah,
need
but
to
look at the kind of cognitive challenge that it throws and the amount of learning that can
absolutely,
happen. Yeah. I think
absolutely.
one, if at all there's one message for the teacher, we should, in 2023, we should stop talking about out of syllabus or out of curriculum. I think
No, no, no.
we should embrace the fact that learning is dynamic and you always have to keep breaking boundaries all the time.
Yes,
Actually.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And also, I think what is a syllabus? If you see a gleam in a child's eye, a child is interested, that is a syllabus.
Absolutely. I think
That is
that's
a
very,
syllabus.
very, very
And,
beautifully put.
and when you,
I want to take the opportunity to um, mention some of the comments that have come in while we were talking, comments and questions and so on. One simple question, and this is like a rapid fire for you, Arvind
yes.
ji, is this is asked by Vamshi Krishna from Hyderabad. What are your top five books that you recommend everyone reads who are in education? The top five
Well,
books.
Mike, Toto-chan,
Right,
Diva Swapna,
right.
Teacher,
Teacher by Sylvia
so
Aston Warner. Yeah,
what?
okay.
Summerhill by A.S. Neil,
Right.
right? And the latest is by Daniel Greenberg, um, uh, I think, Out of School. Daniel Greenberg was a physicist, and
Okay.
he set up the Sudbury Valley Schools.
So
The
Sudbury Valley School. Yes,
Sudbury
yes, I
Valley.
remember. Yeah,
It's
okay.
five great books on education.
Fantastic. So I hope, Vamshi, you've got your answers. Please pick up your copy of these five great books. Some of them, in fact, at least four of them are available on Arvind Gupta Toys.
All five
In
are
fact, all the
available.
five
All
of
five.
them are available. Wonderful. Wonderful. Scientific Srinivas from Andhra is asking, I mean, I don't know how you're going to respond to this. Uh, how many more Arvind Guptas can be raised in our Bharat? That's more. So I don't know whether
No,
you
I
want to
think
respond to that.
I think see, there is a when there are challenges, there are people who rise to those challenges, and
Yeah.
I think I've worked in 25 countries, and whenever I
Wow.
go to my
Yeah.
children, my villages, I see a gleam, I see potential in them, I see possibilities in them. So I
Right.
think there is
Right.
no doubt we will have we have good people.
Right. Right. And Sudarshan had asked a question from Vijayawada. In fact, how can we inculcate a scientific temperament? And I think Sudarshan, in the course of this conversation, we have tried to address that question. Komal from GCRT Gujarat laments the fact that there is still a gap between hands-on activities and classroom science teaching, and I think we have also discussed this. But then I would go by what Arvindji is saying in terms of wanting to now look forward and say that, look, we have even more opportunities than ever before, and I think it's a question of how we make those opportunities available. Yeah. uh, 1 minute. Yeah. And of course, people have liked your comment about the gleam in the eye of the child, right? uh, so Arvind, this has been a fascinating conversation. And one question uh, that remains as we move towards the final stage of this conversation, it's a question asked by Vartika Chaudhary from Kolkata, which is that what has kept you motivated to work at the grassroots level for almost 5 decades? And I think this question assumes a lot of importance because for people in this sector, for people generally in civil society, it is, after all, a very stressful engagement at the end of the day. So, what keeps you going? What keeps you furiously translating more and more books to make them available? What keeps you continuously exploring new teaching ideas? What is it that keeps you going?
I think, see, there is uh, there is. I was very motivated by a Chinese writer, Lu Xun. He was like a Premchand, a people's writer. So Lu Xun gave a lecture. He was at the peak of his glory in China in 1928 when he was
Mm-hmm.
invited to the Beijing Normal School to give a lecture. And he asked the question, why don't roses bloom in China? And it was a very august gathering of civil servants, of ministers, of school principals, very august gathering. And he tried to answer this question. He said, "Are the terrain in China is so stony. It is so barren that even if there was a good seed, it would wilt away. There is no soil. There is no
True.
soil." And he said, you're very powerful people over here, but don't overestimate. You have a delta role. And all his life, Lu Xun did two things. He wrote books, few books, with 30% for original works, which are classics. 70% of his job was bringing great classics from all over the world and translating them into people's Chinese,
Okay.
not the Mandarin Chinese.
Right.
So,
Right.
so this has been my source of deep
Inspiration.
motivation,
Right.
inspiration, that
Wow.
every day we must not crib. Every day make a fistful of soil. Because
Wow.
unless there is soil, there would never be a spring harvest. So, undaunted. There are many,
Right.
many problems, but every day create and put it in the public domain. More soil. Unless there is soil, we will never have a spring harvest. So
Right.
it is with this deep hope. Not too many people read what I translate, but that doesn't deter me from translating
Yeah.
more. I
Yeah.
think they
Yeah.
need more of it. Just
No,
that.
no, absolutely, absolutely. I think sometimes in conversations with colleagues, it's very easy for us to be affected by the so-called day-to-day politics and work
Yes,
relationships.
yes.
You know, this person said this, and this is what happened, and so on and so forth. Very easy to lose sight of the vision for which we must be working. And I think from what you say, if we don't lose sight of that vision, we get almost an infinite amount of energy to
That's it.
work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And whether you're 70 years or 80 years or 90 years, that is what keeps driving you. I think,
Yes.
and in fact, this is very interesting news for me. I mean, bit of understanding about you, that this Chinese author Lu Shu is has also
Lushu.
been Lu Shun has also been a great inspiration. I think I must now try and find out a little more about him. Yeah. And I think there are many questions that have been asked in the chat about, uh, for example, questions such as, do you think that the policies and frameworks of India today, educational policies and frameworks, address the challenges of science or math teaching. And in, I mean, I would want you to respond to it separately, but then you've already responded in a sense saying that most of what most of policy implementation is like preparing that soil.
Yes.
If that soil is not prepared, no seed is going to thrive there. So
Plus,
you can have great policy documents and so on, but then if you're not taking concrete steps, it doesn't happen. So, but then if you look at the national education policy of 2020 and so on, the national curriculum framework and everything that's been happening in the last 2 or 3 years, does it give you hope? Does it give you, or are you saying that it's like old wine in a new bottle?
I think I have hope in the people of this country. See, policies, governments come, governments go, policies come, policies go. But this country is made up of wise people, right? And they want to make this country a better country to live in for its people. And well, there are some good things in the NEP. Mother tongue. I'm all for mother tongue because if something is in English, it's okay. But if it's in the child's mother tongue, it's magic for the child. So I'm
Right,
all for mother tongue, and I totally endorse that bit, right?
right.
But you know, policies are dictated by elections. Policies are dictated by the politics of the party which is in power.
Yeah,
But we as civic society should endeavor to put more and more stuff into the public
right,
domain, which would enlighten our people, right?
right.
Make short videos. I always, for instance, I'll give you one example. This my
Yeah.
friend in IIT Madras, Srinivas Chakrabarti, he was in charge of the NSS. He
Okay.
translated 34 Asimov books into Telugu
Wow.
because he was in charge of the NSS. He
Mm-hmm.
asked all these young boys and girls, well, your grandfather might be at home, your grandmother must be at home,
Mm.
and please request him to translate Asimov into Tamil. And he
Mm.
had all 34 Asimov books for children translated to Tamil. So there is
Wow.
great hope by grandfathers and grandmothers. So there is great hope within civic society.
I think there's great hope provided we are willing to break boundaries. And I think that's
Yes,
probably the biggest challenge for bureaucrats in education, for officers, and for those who work within these hierarchical systems. Can I really break those boundaries and start doing things?
yes,
Because for me, if I were to sum up your entire life's work, Arvindji, I think you have broken every conceivable boundary in every conceivable way. Otherwise, you would have not been able to create what you've created so far. Yeah. So uh, we would like to have one last toy break, and
yes,
then
sure.
after that, one last question before we wind up. Yeah.
Right.
So please show something that
Now,
you.
this is something which we often think that children are, it does create knowledge and
Mhm.
children are consumers of knowledge. Now, I will
Hmm.
show you a toy which is just the opposite. Now, these are
Mhm.
children from school within the university. The Pune University, where Ayuka is located, is
Yeah.
411 acres.
Right.
There's only one small school. It's called as the Vidyapeeth Shala. It's
Mhm.
like a it's like a government school run by the Karve Shikshan Sanstha.
Mhm.
So we said, look, the kids from all over the world, they come to our center and Chirag Tale Andhera. You know,
Mhm.
we have only one school in our campus, so we swore that we're going to work with the school.
Hmm.
So these chaps came and made this. Uh, I'll just show this. It's called as a levitating pencil. Many of you must have seen this.
Okay.
This is the
Okay.
levitating pencil. So you can spin it. They made this. So they had
So
access to the
there are the magnets there,
yes,
right?
magnets.
Yeah.
So the next day the children came, and
Okay.
this is the bicycle spoke, and this is the magnet. Now, if I just put the magnet in the bicycle spoke, you can just see it.
Yeah. Right.
The lower end is spinning. So what
Yeah.
they did was they just took a paper cup, ordinary
Okay.
paper cup, in
Okay.
which we have
Okay.
tea or coffee, make a hole in the base, and one magnet inside, one magnet outside. You can see that this
Oh,
is
okay. Right. Right.
it. That's it. And put the spoke again and give it a little twirl.
Ah.
Now, there is no reference in literature to a toy like this. This is original
Absolutely.
creation. So children are
Absolutely.
not consumers, They're producers of original knowledge, provided we give them space for it. We are afraid to ask them original questions.
Right.
How will original answers come from? We just want them to mug up a particular definition and spit it out in the
Yes.
exams.
Yes.
But if you give space to children, they might ask very uncomfortable questions. You may not have the answers, but they
Yeah.
will create something very original. I
And
can
one of
tell
the
you that someday this toy will
yeah.
be made in China and sold
Yeah.
in India.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. But then I think one point that strikes me as you showed this toy is that a teacher does not have to get stressed at that point of time to explain what is it that is making it work. I mean, I think the first connect with a thing like this should be emotional. I mean,
Absolutely.
you get into the cognitive side of it, seeking explanations, all of that subsequently. And like you rightly said, you may not have all the answers, but then it's the sheer joy of exploring that is important.
Eric Erickson said that play is very serious business, right?
Play is very serious business. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 And I think in that one statement, he has said, banish all that syllabi. Go, just go
They
and
can come
explore it.
later. They can come later.
Yeah, they can come later. Yeah. Okay, so we want to know a little bit about what happened. I mean, as everybody knows here, and I want to mention again that Arvind Gupta was awarded the Padma Shri, very, very deservedly so, in 2018. Uh, and I'm not sure, Arvindji, if there are any other accolades that you've got, but for me, the Padma Shri till date remains one of the biggest. What is it that happened? Can you recount the events of the day when you received the Padma Shri, just for our colleagues and friends to know?
Well,
How did that?
one is that uh, uh, the the first week of National Science Congress. It's a big
Yeah,
jamboree of scientists, 3,000 scientists, and the protocol has been it's always the prime minister who goes and inaugurates.
yeah,
First week of January, Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, he mentioned my name in Man Ki Baat. No,
wonderful.
first, this Library of Congress, this
Yeah,
Science Congress, he asked us that, have you heard about Arvind Gupta's work? And you must see in your institutions those to educate children.
yeah,
And then subsequently, that month of the 30th, Man Ki Baat, again he mentioned me.
yeah.
So, so this was
I've lost the. I've
is it?
lost your audio. Yeah, now I've got it back. Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
So I think he was briefed by assistants that this is good work. This is in the public domain. At one time, the NCRT wanted to set up a portal, a big portal, huh? And we offered all our videos, put all our videos over there. I think it has gone into a decadence now because no one is bothered about it. I think it is the onus of the NCRT as a national institute to they must on their portal the best books on education in
Right,
all Indian languages. This should be their
right.
brief.
Absolutely,
This
absolutely.
should
No
be their
excuses
calling.
on that. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no excuses, right?
yeah, yeah,
If it's a national institute, but I think these institutes are now governed by it's the are they playing the ruling government's policies or no?
yeah,
Uh, you
yeah.
know, they- they-
They've become a lot more polarized and
a
politicized.
lot more polarized and politicized, but this
Yeah,
should be the agenda of the NCRT. Put the
true,
great, get the best for our children.
right.
Like there's a VSO, voluntary overseas. It's a British charity. They
Yeah,
did this book policy, uh, VSO Science Teachers Handbook, VSO
right,
Maths Teachers Handbook. Well,
right,
I translated both of them into Hindi. We got them into Marathi. It should be
right,
the agenda of some national institute because
right,
an individual is hemmed by, lack of resources, lack of people. But institutes have huge resources. They have
right.
longevity. NCRT will keep running,
They'll
right?
be there in perpetuity. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So they have longevity. So they
yeah,
must put this. The other thing is that I think these institutes is slowly realizing that anything which is any book, publication division, the NCRT, the National Book Trust, which is created at public cost, should be accessible to the public. They're
public.
realizing
Yeah,
it. And
yeah, yeah.
they're digitizing under the Digital Library of India, they're
Right.
digitizing many of the government documents and making them available. I think this is very welcome.
I think this is a great step, and I'm sure all the work that you've done in across those several decades has, in ways, direct or indirect ways, contributed to what we are beginning to see now. So, with that, I must conclude this session. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in, and also many people have written to me saying that they will be watching the recording of the session later, because we did a bit of an early morning session today. I must end with the statement that uh, your protege Science Srinivas from Andhra, Scientific Srinivas, he writes saying that you are the one who made me understand Boyle's law through such a simple experiment with the balloon in a syringe, without which I could never understand practically at school level. So I'm sure, Arvindji, you will recall that episode. But then I'm reading this because I want to end this episode with the hope that that spirit of inquiry and discovery continues in everybody's minds. And I also feel very strongly that unless as adults we continue asking those questions and continue exploring, how is it that we can ever hope to make children do that as well? So,
Right.
thank you very much, Arvindji. We will get back to you, I'm sure, again at a later date for yet another session at Giri's Adda. And I must also, before I uh, sign off, I must also say that on October 14th, I will be talking to another person who's working in the field of education. I will be getting in touch with all of you regarding that. And the title for that conversation is very interesting. It is Capacity Building for Building Capacity. So please keep thinking about that, what it means. And I think in many ways it is related to the many things that we discussed today with Arvindji. Arvindji, any final words from your side before we sign off?
I think we have only one life to live.
Yeah,
It's a very beautiful life. So
yeah,
instead of living a stale dream of someone else, right?
yeah.
We must try and live our own dream. We have a right to fail, but still it will be our dream. We try to live our dream. That's it.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm sure. I mean, that's such a motivating thought to end this episode with, and I hope people who are listening on to this will take note of that. So thank you very much, Arvindji.
Yes.
Namaskar,
Thank
and wish
you.
you good
Thanks,
health.
Giri.
And
Thank
yeah, take care. Bye bye.
you.